Real Estate and Open Space Committee regular session on February the 19th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Harwich Real Estate and Open Space Committee on February 19th, 2021 will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website at www.harwich-mass.gov. Now call the meeting to order with a roll call vote. Carol? Margot?
Present.
Kathy?
Catherine Green here.
And myself, I'm here. Okay, first order of business is to welcome Margot. Margot has been approved by the Board of Selectmen to join our committee. Margot has been on this committee in the past, and we're welcoming her back. Margot, would you like to say hello and add anything to that?
Well, I'm happy to be back. This is a committee that I've taken a great interest in over the years, and the town and the trust together have done some fabulous work ever since the land bank passed back in the 1990s. So I'm excited to get involved again. So thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're certainly glad to have you. We know you have a great deal of expertise in conservation matters, and we're glad to have you back. All right, first thing, approval of the minutes from January 15th, 2021. A motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Well, I'll second it. Roll call vote. I'm an aye. Margot?
Abstain because I wasn't there.
That's correct. James?
Aye.
Kathy?
Catherine Green, aye.
Carol?
I'll abstain because I missed it also.
Okay, so you have the record there as two ayes and 2 abstain.
Yep.
Okay.
And yourself, Elaine, makes 3 ayes, right?
Yeah, you can have 2.
Elaine, James, and myself are aye.
Getting a little feedback, I think, from Art. Maybe if Art could mute.
3 ayes.
Okay.
Thanks.
We kind of covered the new business, welcoming Margot to the committee. Move along, being as we got a late start. Update on the CPC application. Mike, here we go with the updates. We have been before the Board of Selectmen. They did agree to support with 2 contingencies. Mike, if you'd like to fill us in on what those contingencies are and where we stand with them.
So they, one of their contingencies was to have a site visit conducted by Brian Howes of the School for Marine and Science Technology at UMass Dartmouth. Brian Howes is as you know, a consultant to the town relative to wastewater management planning, more specifically regarding the town's interest in enhancing natural attenuation with the Coldbrook Eco Restoration Project, for which the town is a partner with HCT and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the State Division of Ecological Restoration. So Brian Howes would visit the Jenkins property site to do further review and a memo describing any findings relative to stormwater runoff inputs. And so that site visit and memo is pending. We're going to wait till the snow disappears. I am in communication with Brian Howes. The second item is that they would like to see a copy of the feasibility study that's underway for ecological restoration planning relative to the retired bog. Right, we know that the Jenkins family chose to discontinue farming as of their October harvest in 2020. So now we're looking at the fieldwork portion of eco-restoration planning to support the feasibility study to understand what a scope of work and estimated cost would be to return those retired bogs to more naturally occurring wetland habitats.
So we're waiting for those things to come to fruition, to report back to the Board of Selectmen. We also received approval from the CPC committee for our project. Kathy, would you like to make any comment on that?
Not really this morning, Elaine, if that's okay.
That's okay, Kathy. I understand.
I'm recovering from surgery on Wednesday and I'm like kind of out of it. So I'm just like here to listen. Sorry, guys. Maybe you could say something about the application. Thanks.
Thank you. I feel better. I wish I had that excuse today, but I don't. So I think it went very well, Mike, if you agree. It went pretty well with the CPC committee. They were very favorable. And I think it will move along quickly now. Your feelings?
I agree. So yeah, on January 28th, the CPC voted its approval of the Real Estate and Open Space Committee's application. And so I think the next step is for Elaine to hear from Joe Powers or his designee around drafting of the warrant article for voter consideration at town meeting.
Right. Okay, good. I have nothing else on that, unless anyone else has a comment or a question. Margo?
I'm just a little confused about the selectmen's questions. The second part of it, I think I understand better than the first part. I assume they're trying to figure out what kind of costs might be associated with doing a restoration of the bog. That's the second part, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. But the first part with Brian Howes, I don't really understand what that's about.
I think gathering that information through Brian will help address a question of what kind of stormwater inputs, if any, there might be from Route 124 into the wetland, and then understanding if there's any potential for the stormwater that might be entering the wetlands, if that is making its way to the pond. It's quite a distance. You know, a preliminary look at the road layout doesn't indicate any issue at the moment, but they would like, you know, more a closer look by Brian through a site visit.
So it seems like that's a good thing to do in general, but what does it have to do with the question of whether or not the town buys the property?
I think it connects to that other question of the selectmen, and that is what is the potential cost for ecological restoration of the retired bog. In a preliminary conversation with Brian House, it's his opinion, I could paraphrase here, that an ecological restoration of the bog surface of the retired bog will actually increase the natural ability of the wetland habitat to filter any precipitation, or if there are stormwater runoff inputs from any roadways. Because right now, what one has with that retired bog area is a series of long incised channels that are designed to move water quickly on and off the site.
Right.
His initial thought pre-site visit was that it wouldn't be an issue, but the selectmen would like confirmation through a site visit.
And is there, just so I understand this, they want this information before they decide which way they would recommend to town meeting? Is that?
Actually, did you want to speak to that, Elaine?
Well, we have the support now of the majority, I believe, of the Board of Selectmen. And there are just two who are waiting for this information before they would give their full support.
Okay, thanks.
Now, Mike, we should also mention that last Monday night's Board of Selectmen meeting, they addressed that they had received information from the Division of Conservation and Recreation regarding the other lot there on the property and their intent to purchase.
Right. So what Elaine is speaking to is at the most recent, it's actually on this past Tuesday, February 16th, Board of Selectmen meeting, Sean Preventure of the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR. DCR has jurisdiction over the Cape Cod Rail Trail, among other DCR related properties in the state. And DCR is interested in the lot that's approximately 1.38 acres that is situated at the corner of the Cape Cod Rail Trail and Headwaters Drive, essentially opposite where the existing rail trail parking is, off Headwaters Drive. And so part of the process for DCR to be in a place where it can acquire that parcel as part of this acquisition proposal is a notification of its intent to do so. So it has notified the Cape Cod Commission. It notified the selectmen on Tuesday night. And part of that notification process was a vote by the selectmen acknowledging that notification, and also a second vote that resulted in a reduced time frame for which DCR can act on this acquisition from 120 days to 60 days, which is helpful for DCR because they need to close on this acquisition by the end of the current fiscal year, right, which is June 30, 2021. So HCT is working with DCR to facilitate acquisition of that 1.3 acre parcel by DCR.
Any other questions or comments?
just one question. So would that reduce then the amount that either the town would pay or the trust would raise for the overall project?
That's undetermined. I think well, it wouldn't reduce the amount that's in the proposed community preservation open space funding forthcoming article. Relative to the balance that the trust has to raise if town meeting votes its approval of that 360,000 proposed contribution by the town through the open space portion of the CPA fund. It's to be determined. This meeting just concluded Tuesday night, and I'm still in dialogue with DCR about their due diligence steps that they need to complete in order to close by June 30. And although June 30 seems a ways away, the due diligence that's required for the state to finish the land transaction takes time. So we'll see if we're cautiously optimistic that we'll get there. Yeah.
So, so it sounds like this is part of that piece of property that we've been looking at and that is on the CPC application, or is this another piece? This 1.3 acres?
You're right, Carol. It's part of the larger assemblage of parcels that makes up the Jenkins property. And it is mentioned the CPA application, the DCR has been part of the discussions. It didn't manifest in this final decision by DCR to focus solely on this parcel of the larger assemblage until after the CPA application was submitted back in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Is the update on Bank Street property, which I don't know any more than what I read in the paper, to be honest. My understanding is there are folks who are interested in that building and would like to make some type of renovations to it. There's a concern about additional wetlands on the property. Amy, can you explain what that concern is about, the additional wetlands?
Either myself or perhaps Mike, because it's can mention that, but there is this additional potential wetland that is kind of just south of the upland piece where the old firehouse is, right adjacent to the road. There's a questionable area there, whether it's categorized technically as wetland. And for a wetland to be a wetland, you need to have, of course, 2 out of the 3 characteristics. Hydrology, meaning water present, hydric soils, or wetland vegetation. So I believe that is starting to be looked at. But of course, if anybody, that's all I know. So if anybody knows more, please feel free and chime in. But that is my knowledge, that is the questionable area.
Mike, anything to add to that?
Oh, that's my understanding as well.
Okay, yeah, so that's where we stand right now. I guess that's going to delay the demolition of the building if it's decided that should happen?
Not necessarily would it delay the demo.
Okay.
Regardless if it's wet or not, I think the demo of the building, is far enough away in a very disturbed footprint that the Conservation Commission would, consider that.
Okay, all righty, thank you. Members' reports. Carol, anything?
No, nothing from me.
James, anything you'd like to add? What you're up to or anything?
No, I don't have too much to add. To be honest, I've been considering whether or not to continue on the committee after my term ends. I haven't really made that decision as of yet, but I've just been struggling a little bit to fit it all in. So just put that out there. But I would like to continue. I care a lot about it, and it's important to me. But I'm considering that at this time. So that's all.
Okay. Well, as always, we appreciate your input. You do have a lot of knowledge about the properties and that we've been discussing. And, we hate to lose you, but certainly can understand how trying to fit stuff into busy schedules, it's difficult. Okay. I have one thing that Marcia was going to do in her report. The property that we have in the past been focusing on Cherokee Road, there is a buyer, and the closing is scheduled for March 22nd. So just so all the time that we spent on that property, it's finally come to an end, or will come to an end on March 22nd. It will be sold to a buyer. Let's see, what else did I have?
Elaine, is that the property that's right off the end of the dead end road there? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's back. It's split. The road that cuts through the middle of that property, whose name I can't remember at the moment. James.
Nathan Walker Road.
Nathan Walker. Thank you. It's split by Nathan Walker Road. There's supposedly two lots, and you can't get to it from Cherokee Road straight through. You have to get through it through Samoset or Jay-Z Drive to get in that way, or in from 137, come over that way through Hawks Nest.
So it's presumably being sold for development? Somebody's going to build on it?
I don't know. I couldn't say for sure that's what it is, but I know we had looked at it last year and was going to go for funding for CPA funds, but then there was just too many difficulties. Too many things came up between the family and changing their mind and wanting to sell and not wanting, and whether it was buildable or not. And eventually we decided to rescind the application, and then the family, I guess this year, decided to put it on the market for sale again, as they had done it previously. It had been on the market and beyond, and they go off and put it back on. So they put it back on, and apparently it's being sold. So it was that. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Kathy, I won't bother you. Carol, you have nothing. James, you have nothing. I just want to mention that there is a Lower Cape Housing Institute meeting this morning around 10 o'clock. I have signed up to attend. The first session is about Lower Cape Housing 101. Art, are you involved in attending this? Have you signed up?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
It sounds interesting. There was an article that was attached to the application. I don't know if you read it or not, but it was a nice twist on how to promote housing going forward. It was a very interesting article.
Yeah.
So if you got the email, you might have resurrected and read the article.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll be there. Thank you.
Good. Margo, we try to keep this committee. We try to keep a close relationship with the Affordable Housing Trust Committee, and also with Art as chair of the Housing Committee. So we all try to keep in touch and about wherever we can. And we have made it a priority in this committee. I myself and others, we try to attend virtually, of course, the Affordable House Trust meetings when they have one. And you see, Art is always at our meetings, and we get information from him. So we're trying to work with the different, different committees in town and the housing. So it doesn't look like we're just focused on conservation all the time. We do also focus on housing. Dave is not here, but I will say I have been in communication with Dan Pelletier, the superintendent of the water and wastewater, whatever now. Last year we had talked with Dan about a state grant for the water department that they were looking for some property. And we kind of Dave and I worked with them to help provide any information we could or any assistance we could to help them in the application for this grant money. Well, the grant usually goes out, the information goes out in November, and all the applications are due by the middle of January. This year, that didn't happen. So they still have not put out that information for that grant. So Dan has looked into another source of funding for property that their water department is looking at 159 Chatham Road. So when something comes up from that, we will certainly pass on that information. But again, Marco, so you know, we are trying to work with the different other departments in town and other committees, because we're all here for the good of the town, and it's better to all work together and help each other out when we can.
The water department piece that you're talking about, is it the is just directly adjacent to where their offices are on Old Chatham Road?
I'm not. I thought it was across, but it may be adjacent to. If Dave was here, he would know exactly, of course. But I'm not sure. Mike, do you know? Dave mentioned it to you.
I'd have to see an assessor's map.
Yeah, I don't either. Because Dave is more. Dave usually attends a lot of the water committee meetings, commission meetings. So he's more up to date on that. But I just thought you know that for a while, we didn't connect too well with the water department. They, we couldn't coordinate too well. But lately, the past year or so, we have been working well with them. And there are other properties that they were looking for maybe the site of a new well up in North Harwich that we've worked with them on and are hoping that the town acquires that property. So, anything else? Anyone else? Comments? Questions? No? Okay. The next meeting date is Friday, March 19th. That's the day we're supposed to plant our peas. Amy's laughing, she knows. Any gardener knows that's the day you plant your peas, March 19th, St. Joseph's Day. Okay, what we will do now is take a roll call vote to enter into executive session. Art, thank you very much for joining us. And I'm going to ask if you could leave. We can't hear you. Can't hear you say goodbye because you're muted. There you go. Thank you, Art. Okay, we'll now go into executive session. Roll call vote. Carol?
Excuse me, should
We will
also?
excuse me?